just sort of an intro session to BlueBeam. I was asked a little bit about the program, and I don't know a lot about it, but I'm going to tell you what I do know about it. So BlueBeam is a very robust PDF reader and markup tool, and it looks a little bit like Adobe Acrobat Reader, but on this left-hand side, you'll see that what you've got is, on these tabs here, a list of recent files. You've got bookmarks, you've got thumbnails, which I can go through my pages, a tool chest, which is kind of an interesting thing I'll show you later. You can save markups and repeat them again. Then you've got layers, if you do layered PDFs. And on the right-hand side, you see there's a sort of properties dialog box. So I just happen to be clicked into the page. I haven't selected any objects yet, and but when you do select an object, you'll have various things that you can do. You can use a search tool to search through the document. You can use a measurement tool, which gives you measurement tools that are here, and they're also here, and they're also on a measurement pull-down tab. And then it gives you a 3D model tree, which I haven't really used. Now these tabs, if you don't see these things, there's a little blue caret here. If you come into a full screen view, you can kind of pop those guys out just by clicking on them. And this is a tabbed interface, so if you have multiple files at the same time, you'll see tabs up at the top of the screen. Now, as I said, there's a ribbon for various tools: file, edit, document, markup, measure. Some of the basic tools stay the same, and these guys over on the right-hand side change. Window. And it's kind of hard to see, but there is actually a little dividing line right here. So if I click back into the bar here, I can have permanently stationed toolbar, and you can right-click on that and sort of edit what you want to pull up. So one of the tools that I use, or several of the tools I use most often, are the ones I'm going to show you today. The one that I use the most is actually the markup tool. What's really cool about this, if you get a PDF of, a weird scale, if you have either a, I'm going to hit Z for zoom, and I'm going to zoom in. I have a dimension here. If I hit Control 0, it zooms back out. Or I've got a scale bar at the bottom, and I can use either of these to actually calibrate. So if I come up to this tool, calibrate, that same tool is also over here. Actually, it's not on here. That's weird. Okay, so the calibrate tool is here or here. Click on it, and for some reason, I don't know why my machine, other people's don't experience this, I get a little glitch where I have to click a bunch of times to get this thing to come up and then cancel. But when you first do this, if your machine is working right, you should hit calibrate, and it should give you, it wants to snap to things. So what I'm going to do is hit Control, hold down Control, and zoom in with my scroll button, and click from here to here, and you can see it's snapping because it's actually a vector based PDF. If it's a raster PDF, you won't get those snaps. You'll just have to eyeball it. And it comes up with whatever was the last dimension that I used. So I'm going to type in 8 foot 0 inches and hit enter, and it automatically goes right into one of the tools, the one I used last. So in this case, it's going into the length tool. And then I'll click and I'll click, and you'll see it brings up the dimension of 8 feet, which is correct. So now the cool thing about that is, and I'll zoom back out, once you've done that, and you've calibrated on this one sheet, you can come in, and with a vector image you can snap a bunch of dimensions that you might want to get off your plan to do takeoffs, which is kind of nice. And then another really nice thing that I use an awful lot is actually the area tool. So if I come in, click, 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 hit enter, I get a readout of what the area is. I think if I click and hold and drag, it just gives me a simple box, but of course in this case I missed a corner, so that's not quite right. You'd want to click and trace, and you can modify these things too and change their character. So for instance, if I select the dimension, it doesn't quite look right, click on it, you see it's highlighted, and I can drag it and move it here, or I can drag its endpoint. If I hold shift down, it'll sort of do an ortho thing. Bring it over here and stretch that dimension. Look, it doesn't look like it's actually snapping right now, and I think that's because I've turned off, there's some controls down here. If I click snap, let's see if that works. Now it's snapping to something. It doesn't look like it's quite snapping. I think I have to hit markup Yeah, there it goes. Okay. So it's snapping in that manner. But if this looks too small, it doesn't look quite right, what I'll do is I'll come up to my Properties tab. And you know, this looks a little bit like every other Properties dialog box, but I can change the color. So if I change it to blue, you see my dimension arrow has turned to blue. I can change my text color to blue. Maybe crank up the font, you know, crank it up to 24. And I can also play with my arrowheads, change them out, and change the scale of the arrowheads if I think they look a little funny. Yeah, and this one you see now it has a red infill because there's actually a fill color in the arrow too. If you want it to be solid, you would do that. And you can do the same thing actually with the area stuff. There's a hatch that you can, several programs. You can actually create custom hatches and other things to get it to look the way you want it to look. So this is a pretty convenient and handy way of getting quick dimensions and measurements off of a drawing. Now another tool I use quite a bit is actually the snapshot tool. So I'm going to come up here, click on snapshot, and if I say, want to play around with the location of the bathroom, I can just quickly do a snapshot, and then I'll do Control V, and I'll move this guy around. Now, since it's a vector image, it came out transparent, and since I've had this selected, its properties are coming up, and I can come in and actually change the fill color to white if I want to mask things behind it. You see now it's actually masking what's behind it, and I can move this guy around, and if I love that bathroom location more than the other one, I can come in and just sort of draw a box. In this case, I have a box with a white color, and I'll fill it in with a blank color and just sort of cheat it out if I want to do like a kind of quick rough and tumble markup of something. And then I can say Control C, Control V, and copy this as many times as I want. Another cool thing you can do with markups, if I grab this guy and let's say I'm going to get rid of my masking box. Let's say I just want to move it a little and I want to tell somebody what I did. I can go back to no fill color, and this is kind of a cool feature. I can hit this box that says change colors, and it says, you see it says process modify color. I'm going to leave it at that and not go into any of these other guys. I'm going to say change black to red and hit OK. So now if I can come in and I'll control scroll in, use my arrow keys to maybe just like nudge this guy into place. You see that I can sort of move this thing around and tell somebody, well, this is where it was and this is where I actually want to move it. And it's a way of doing a markup. Maybe I come up here and I quickly do a shape that's a cloud shape, make it green, say, hey guys, this is what I want to do. And then there are other annotative tools too, like text boxes. You can come in and say, move toilet room. And if I want to give it a box color, actually this has got no surround, you can see, because the line width is 0. I'll change it to 5, make it also green, come in here and select my text, make my text color maybe a darker green so it's more legible, and then I can stick like an arrow on it. Whoops, wrong way. Make that green. So, and those tools are the tools that I use 99.9% of the time. Now, a thing you'll want to do is if you're going to save this PDF and send it to somebody, or bring it into a program like InDesign and put it onto a sheet, there's this little kind of hammer thing. It's called flatten. So you click the flatten tool, and you want to make sure it says allow markup recovery. That allows you to reverse the process. But if you hit flatten now, then basically you can't come in and touch any of this stuff for the time being. I can come in and click unflatten and do the reverse, but flattening will allow this now to be dragged and dropped into Adobe InDesign and used for, to be inserted into a board or presentation board or something like that. So that's this tutorial, and these are the basics, and I hope you got something out of this and like the tool.